Hi, Amy.
Happy.
Last night we watched Before the 90 Days, Season 7, Episode 13, as well as, we have bonus content, as usual, for The Other Way, Season 6, Episode 21.
Tell All, Part 1.
And it looks like it's only a two-parter this year, which is a huge relief for me. How about you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think that they could have drawn out any of these storylines any longer.
No. Please, no. Amy, do you like to watch podcasts on video?
Yes. Yes, I do.
You do? You do?
Yeah.
Well, if our audience members like to watch podcasts on video, they can. Just head over to YouTube and look at our channel, 90 Day Fiancé Honestly, and you will find an array of videos to amuse you for this podcast.
I've told you before that, I've been listening to the podcast, which sounds kind of self-serving, but, quality assurance. I've been listening to the podcast and I sat down and I was clicking through my computer and I couldn't find the video. I'm like, where's the video? And then I realized it's a podcast. There is no video.
There's both. We had the best of both worlds, both the best worlds.
Okay.
And that too. We have
right.
all of it. Yeah. And just as a final reminder, next month we are launching our subscriber-only content, which will cover the new season of The Last Resort. This show will be available through Apple and Spotify with a monthly cost of just $4.99. Free podcast will continue as usual, and we'll cover 90 Day Fiancé shows that air on Sunday nights on TLC. And as always, ad-free.
Ad-free.
Yay. So as Sean would say, let's dig in to this week's drama.
Well, I mean, if we're going to go with that, we might as well just end the podcast right now because we're not going to get anywhere.
Let's start off with Magda and Joe.
Hang on. Before we get started, I would like to make an announcement.
Oh, do.
I don't think you're going to believe this when it comes out of my mouth. I enjoyed this episode.
So did I.
Yes.
The drama was there.
Mm-hmm.
Things happened. There was stuff. Stuff and things.
Stuff and things. And it wasn't irritating.
No.
I mean, some parts were, but
I think that's mostly because Tiger Lily and Adnan weren't on this week, as well as Chicken Lady and Chitty. We didn't have those two.
Glorious.
It was. So let's get started with the glorious couple, Magda and Joe, also known as Magna.
Magna.
Why can't this man, as well as me, speak properly? Why does he have such a hard time with her name, given that he does actually know that her name is Magda, even though it took him a while to get there?
Yeah, it took him a while. I don't know. He says he doesn't say vodka right either. He says vodka.
Maybe he just has a hard time with the does.
Maybe.
With the D's. So odd. Whatever.
Joe is that one.
No. Joe is working it. He's speaking the language, that is to say Polish. He's getting all kissy, all flirty with Magda. And I started wondering, is this couple actually going to manage to be abstinent for the 3 weeks that he's going to be in Poland? Because they are already starting with he is starting with the sexual innuendo. Even as he's walking up the stairs to get to their apartment, he's making these suggestive noises. I was like,
noises that he was making.
Please, how old are you? It's really off-putting.
Yeah, what was the point of that? What are you getting at?
Well, it's as if he has the emotional maturity of a 14-year-old. Because the jokes that he's making, the kind of sexual innuendos that he's making are all so blatantly obvious and so crude and crass.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the kind of thing that can't help but turn off a woman who is mature.
Mm-hmm.
But perhaps if she was a teenager, she would find it funny. I don't know. For me personally, I just roll my eyes and go, ew, turn off. No, Joe, try going in the opposite direction if you want to actually get this woman into bed with you. Ease off a bit. Be subtle. Don't force it down her throat. Accept her guidelines, her
boundaries.
Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. When she says there are 2 bedrooms in this apartment and we should sleep separately, I was like, okay, Joe, just take it all in, absorb it, don't make a fuss, be a man. But you can see it in his eyes, in his expression, in the way he speaks, in the way he reacts to her, that none of this makes him happy whatsoever. He's the kind of man who's used to sleeping with a woman very, very quickly. And that's what his intention is with Magda, even though last week or the week before, she said, no, I'm not going to sleep with you on this trip. Don't bring any condoms. What's your feeling?
I get the feeling that he's a man-child.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very, very selfish. I feel like he's just going to continue to push the boundaries until either she gives in or tosses him to the curb.
Yeah.
I'm kind of confused by this dynamic because I think it's quite apparent that, she really just wants the green card to move to the States. But I think even she's struggling with this because he's so immature and sexually forward, and crude is the right word.
Yeah.
I wonder how much she's going to be able to take before she gives up on that idea.
Well, she not only seems to have a problem with the crassness, with the jokes that he's making, the suggestiveness of whatever he's saying to her, but she also has an even bigger problem with the fact that he's slept with another woman. The timeline of this is a little confusing to me, so bear with me. He says that they met online in March, right? And that he slept with somebody at the beginning of April. So they hadn't really been...
But wasn't that her birthday? She kept saying her birthday.
Yeah, because he had apparently either attempted to or actually gone through with getting her a gift, flowers, for her birthday. The date wasn't specifically given during the episode, so I'm unclear on the timeline of that. But it seems like within about a month of them meeting online, he was with another woman, which, I gotta say, seems reasonable to me because he's only known her for a month online. And according to him, they were not exclusive. There was no
conversation.
Yeah, there was no parameter set for what is and isn't allowed during this time period, although she had gone to the lengths of taking a ring and putting it on her ring finger of her left hand to show the rest of the world that she was taken, that she was no longer available. So she, in her own mind, was taking a giant leap forward while he was completely unaware of this, or so he says. So
he's unaware of this. She's wearing an engagement ring. And at what point does she quit her job? Like, both of these people don't make any sense to me. I'm not following either one of their thought processes. It's confusing.
It's very confusing. And she seems like, of course, she's only 23. So she's sort of immature in the sense that she's grasping at these conclusions as to what their relationship means without having discussed it with him first. So that's her immaturity showing through. She's wearing the ring without having said to him, we are exclusive, by the way, so don't sleep with anybody. And he is immature in the sense that he's not taking any of this seriously and is acting like a complete ass and trying to get her into bed, even though she's very outright and very straightforwardly said to him, no, I do not want to do that with you at this point. I want to wait to get to know you better. And confusingly now, she's given us two different timelines. The first time around, she said, not until I get to the United States that we would sleep together. And on this trip, she says, not until we get engaged. So she's giving mixed signals now, which also I attribute to her being somewhat immature and not really having that sense of confidence yet to be able to stick to her boundaries.
Yeah. She's changing her own, which in and of itself is confusing. Now, I hope that I don't know how to phrase this, but I really hope that he doesn't take this as like, this is the point that he knows that he can push it because, first it was when she gets to the States and now it's when they get engaged. And he's like, well, either
that's exactly it.
Push it again so it becomes earlier than that, or he's just going to propose to get what he wants.
Ooh. See, I don't think he would go that far. I don't think we're going to get but we don't know him well enough. But just from what we've seen so far, I got the sense that he's not willing to go through that kind of seriousness of proposing to somebody in order to just get her into bed. I think he's the type of guy who, even though she says, we're going to sleep in separate bedrooms, I'm going to get to know you first before we sleep together. It's going to take at least until we get engaged before I want to sleep with you. He's the type of guy who will disregard all of that and push it with her. Like you were saying, he's going to try and try and try any which way he can, no matter how crass, no matter how inappropriate, to get her into bed before her desired timeline.
Yes.
So when they go to that cooking class, which I was like, oh my God, not another cooking class. We know how that went for Vanja and Bozo, which was not good at all. I hope this goes better. He was not any better than Bozo. Bozo was too reticent. Joe is too forward.
And not just that, but there were kids in the room.
Yeah.
It was so inappropriate.
He is so not serious. I can't believe I keep having to remind myself this guy is 34 years old. 34. And he's acting like he's 14. He has the emotional maturity of a 14-year-old making the little comments about sex. No. Do you not realize what a turnoff this is? Your girlfriend.
He probably doesn't, because he's probably always gotten what he wants.
Yet that baffles me. I don't know how he's achieved that. But he's got this girlfriend now who is 11 years his junior. And yet she, like you said at the get-go, is already getting turned off by his sexual immaturity. And is she going to put up with it long enough to get to the green card? She definitely feels like she wants their relationship to be more secure. She wants it to be fixed. And when they have that conversation, when they're going to the vodka place, which I'm sure you were very excited about.
I was very excited, yes.
It's like, I bet you Amy wants to taste the vodkas. I know, I want to taste them too.
I do, especially the Polish vodkas.
I wanted to taste the citrus one. Thought that would be really yummy. Anyway, I digress.
Try them all.
They're talking about their relationship over the vodka. I don't think that Joe is used to having to work in order to be intimate with his girlfriends or pickups or whatever you want to call them. I don't think he's used to having to do any work beyond the, hey, how you doing? And then them jumping into bed with him. So this is foreign territory for him. That's what I felt, because he has no concept of sitting back, because Magda has very clearly enunciated she wants to wait. She wants to take it slow. Just sit back, Joe. Let her take the lead. Because isn't that one of the biggest turn-ons of all for women, when a man just lets us take the lead and decide when we're ready and when we want to go?
The respect.
Absolutely. The biggest turn-on of all. Respect. You choose. It's okay. I can wait.
It's on you. I'll be here.
Yeah. I'm just happy whichever way you want to go. Now, later, doesn't matter. I'll wait.
But
Joe, get it together, man. She's beautiful. She's willing. Yes, she probably just wants a green card. But if you played your cards right, she could be so good for you. She could actually get you to grow up, I think.
I don't know. Could be another Rob situation. I hope not. At least this guy has a job.
At least. Yeah. Shall we leave it there?
Yes, please.
Niles and Matilda come up next.
Niles, Matilda, and Mr. Ark.
Mr. Ark. Mr. Ark is like the central character of this episode.
And what
Fascinating
a
man. Fascinating man. Any comments?
I found him very interesting. First of all, I think Niles was amazing when he approaches Mr. Ark and, he apologizes and said, I should have done things differently. But, so not a but. I think that Mr. Ark takes his role as a father figure in his culture very seriously. And I absolutely adored his approach. I adored how strong he was and how he tried to guide Niles, though I do believe that Niles kind of didn't quite get it. But before we get to the end, what were your thoughts?
Okay, so I always thought of Mr. Ark as the strange Mr. Ark because that's how he's been framed by Matilda, right?
He's a strange man, to quote her.
He is a strange man. He is both very interesting, fascinating, and yet strange. I agree with you. He took his role as Niles's father figure very seriously, and I would say, in fact, too seriously.
Yeah.
He did go a step too far. He agreed to being Niles's father figure, and then he immediately starts calling himself as your father or as my son, as your father. I do this, I do that. And I'm like, that's a little much. I feel that that's just a titch over the top of crazy. You know what I mean? It was just, I felt a little bit awkward when he's calling himself Niles's father all the time.
Especially it was because it was right after Niles asked him. But what bothered me about it was he almost started berating Niles, like, as your father, you should have come to me first. And I agree that he should have talked to Mr. Ark from the beginning, but I don't think that he had the knowledge or the forethought to think that things would have gone this negatively for him. So why would he need to go to Mr. Ark first? Because he also didn't know that he needed, like, his family to do the knocking with him. So he wasn't aware that he would need Mr. Ark for that. But it just seemed as though, Niles asked him to step into this role. And now not only has he stepped into this role from this point forward, but also retroactively.
Yes. It did seem, I keep using the word serious, but it just did seem too serious, too literal. Maybe that's a better word. It was too literal an interpretation of the be my father figure for this ceremony. Because like you said, he did immediately start chastising Niles as if he was a little boy, which he is not.
And should have known better without knowing anything.
Because he doesn't belong to that culture. It's not innate knowledge in Niles to understand what the knock door ceremony actually entails, how big it should be, what kind of festivities it includes. So he puts all of that onus of knowledge on Niles, who should not have it innately or in any capacity until somebody from the Guyanese culture tells him this is how it actually goes. So I felt immediately like, okay, Niles has just asked this guy to be his stand-in father figure, and we're getting all of this very strange, very overwhelming information from Mr. Ark. Is it possible that Niles can back off and just say, oh, I've changed my mind. No, I don't need you. Thank you very much. No, it's impossible at this point because this man is considered to be an elder in the community. He's respected. You can't really retract from what you've just asked this person to do for you. This is going to be a problem for Niles. And that is, in fact, what transpires. Because when Mr. Ark and his wife sit down with Niles and Matilda, all of this stuff starts coming out about how the process should have gone, what should have been done, how it should have been done. And although Mr. Ark initially made it Niles's fault that he didn't do things correctly, that he didn't know how to do things correctly, which of course he's not at fault for because he's an American, not familiar with the culture. Niles then turns and puts all of that on Matilda, and then Mr. Ark chastises Niles for being too harsh on Matilda. He's a very confusing man.
I think he tried to guide Niles with his communication with Matilda, more or less like, figure out what you're doing. These are the steps. Figure it out instead of Niles just being like, no, you're right. Okay, how do we fix things moving forward? He looks at Matilda and he starts blaming her for everything, which is absolutely not what Mr. Ark wanted. I don't know if it was a communication issue or if it was a perception issue, but Niles did not approach Matilda the way that Mr. Ark had wanted, if he wanted her or him to approach Matilda in the slightest. But now things have blown up.
Yeah, but I don't fault Niles for the way that he shifted the blame onto Matilda, because I felt that the pressure was so great from Mr.
Mhm.
Ark on Niles to begin with that he had no other option left to him. Given his disability, given how he understands the world, which I'm not pretending to understand myself, but how I think it might have gone is that Niles would take on the pressure of all of the stuff that Mr. Ark has unloaded onto him. And he has no other recourse than to say, well, Matilda, you're the one who informed me of how things would be. And here's Mr. Ark, the elder, telling me how things should be. And they don't match up. So,
Mhm.
Matilda, it's your fault because I depended on you to give me the correct perception of how things are supposed to go. And it is incorrect according to what I'm just learning from Mr. All very confusing. And Matilda does not appreciate this approach whatsoever.
She definitely does not. I can understand where Niles is coming from, especially with regards to the amount of the amount of money that he's going to have to put into this, the amount of food that he was supposed to buy for her entire family. And this big, I think Matilda said at the beginning that there was going to be like 200 people at this wedding. 200 people
That
that
was
were,
the wedding.
yeah.
And
But,
then the knock door was supposed to be 90.
and Mr. Ark says, no, you don't need to do any of that. You do the knock door, and then it's a simple ceremony. We don't do big celebrations like that there. So I wonder where the incongruence is coming from with regards to what Matilda's saying versus Mr. Ark. Is Matilda trying to throw this big party because she wants to celebrate her relationship with Niles? Is she showing off because she's going to move to America with this man? I don't know what her thought process is there. I don't think we as viewers have enough information to be able to decipher really what's going on, especially because obviously it's not our culture. I think the next couple episodes are going to be really telling. I still hope for the best for the two of them, but at this point, I am concerned.
Yeah, I agree with you that Matilda is probably trying to show off a little bit about her relationship with Niles, that he's American, that she's going to be going to the promised land, the land of opportunity to live with him, which is fantastic for her because she comes from this culture of poverty. But I also think that perhaps there is an element of trying to take advantage of Niles because the wedding is not taking place immediately. So she's shifting over the celebratory aspect of the wedding to be given on the at the knock door ceremony in order to feel like she's having a little taste of her wedding because she has to delay it for so long until he next returns to Ghana to do the wedding. So I think there's those two factors involved. And when we saw Kobe and Emily do their knock door ceremony, it was very small. It was just her parents, his parents, and I think like maybe two other members of his family, because I think there were 4 or 5 of them all together on his side, as well as Emily's mom and dad and her at the knock door ceremony. So it was very small. And then, but they immediately had the wedding right afterwards, which was a big celebration with a lot of people. So what Mr. Ark is saying does make sense in the context of what we've seen in Kobe's, and I'm blanking on what country Kobe's from. Help me out.
Cameroon.
Thank you. The Cameroonian culture seems to be in alignment with the Ghanaian one as far as the knock door and the wedding ceremonies go. So we have had a little taste of what it's supposed to be like. And it does seem Matilda may be exaggerating a little bit the knock door ceremony for her own benefit because she wants to show off or because she's having to wait for so long to get her wedding. Who knows? But yeah, her reaction in the car was, I think, a little bit extreme. If she had communicated with Niles beforehand and said, look, I'd really like us to make this knock door ceremony a little bigger, since I have to wait 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, who knows how long, months until you come back for the wedding, then he probably would have understood that.
I think just a little bit of communication would have gone a long way. And we've said this thousands and thousands of times, and especially because Niles needs that direction. He needs someone to be very frank with him.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. And Matilda didn't afford him the ability or the knowledge to be able to maneuver through this situation effectively and efficiently. And I think selfishly, by pushing him to talk to her family and doing all these things ahead of time before talking to Mr. Ark has now put them both in Mr. Ark's not great books.
Yeah.
And Matilda has said before that he was rude to her previously. So I wonder if there's like an element of her being afraid of him. So that's why she didn't tell Niles to go talk to him immediately. But on the flip side, if she was afraid of him, why wouldn't she say just go talk to him immediately so we don't screw this up?
Yeah, good point.
Because now she's put Niles in this position where he has already spoken to her family with her present, which Mr. Ark has said that is absolutely forbidden. You do not do that. And we saw this in Emily and Kobe's knock door, where they looked at Emily and they said, you need to leave. She's like, hey, great, peace out. But I can also see why Matilda sat there, because she was feeding Niles the lines.
Yeah.
Remember how anxious he was about it?
Yeah. He needed the help, the support to say the right things at the right time. And I think she was also translating for him, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so. So this is all just a mess that I don't think Niles ever could have predicted. I definitely did not see this coming. I'm not fully immersed in their culture. I don't know how these things work. So why should he be expected to know this as well? So I really hope that Mr. Ark is going to be able to set them on the right path. Here's hoping.
All right, let's go on to happier, more dramatic territory in Croatia with Vanja and Bozo.
I think the real star of this segment was Bozo's friends, especially the guy in the red plaid shirt, when he said, give her the courtesy of the 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Spend time with her, get to know her. She came all this way to visit you.
Yeah.
And Bozo did not listen.
Bozo, I don't know what to make of him at this point. It is very clear that he's still in love with his ex-girlfriend. That much.
And very, very much not interested in being with Vanja.
Totally. But why did he invite her to come? Why is this all happening? How did this even come to be? That they were at a point where he was saying, yes, come to Croatia. 3 weeks sounds great to me. We can get to know each other. It'll be fantastic. You've got to come. And obviously, I don't know what words he used, but clearly that was sort of the situation, because she was there with very high expectations that they were going to start really forming the basis of their romantic relationship and perhaps even end up engaged at the end of her visit. Whereas from the moment that she arrived in Croatia, he has been nothing but friend zoning her. It's all platonic. And he is terrified by her emotional investment in him. And he can't stand it whenever she talks about their future, wanting to be with him, having feelings for him. He runs scared anytime that stuff comes up. I loved his friends. I thought they were great. And yes, them telling him, you should at least give her the benefit of the doubt, spend some time with her. Who knows, maybe your feelings will change. I thought all of that was wonderful, but totally just pee in the wind, you know? It doesn't have any effect. He's already set. His heart is already with somebody else, and he cannot say it, which is really sad.
It's really unfortunate.
So he chases after her when she leaves the restaurant, pub, wherever they are, to apologize, because his friends make him do that. She won't even talk to him. She has completely turned into her most emotional self. She's heartbroken. She's bereft. She can't bear to speak with him.
She's
His work.
embarrassed.
Yeah, she's embarrassed. She's very embarrassed. She can't bear to speak with him, so she doesn't want to hear what he has to say at this point. And I found his dismissal of her in the street alleyway to be so hard to take, because he was saying to her, look, I'm really sorry about all of this, and if you don't want to talk to me tomorrow, then bye, have a nice time, have a nice life, see you later. No, Bozo, no, that's not how this works. You have to go talk to her when she's ready to talk to you.
You have to make the effort.
She has come all the way to Croatia for 3 weeks to see you.
You. Specifically you.
And you are the one who has pieced out already, even though it's only, day 2? And now she's going to be stuck there in this country by herself after you've broken her heart, after you've let her on for so long, 4 or 5 months.
It's just unsettling, his approach. And at one point, I don't remember if he was talking to her or if he was talking to his friends, but he was laughing about it. That clearly shows how not invested he is in all of this.
Well, if you look at the fact that since the beginning, we knew that he didn't tell his mom. He hadn't told his friends. He told nobody about Vanja until the day before she arrives. That already speaks volumes to me. If you are invested, if you have feelings, if you're hopeful for something to happen between you and somebody else, you can't contain those feelings, and they spill out, and you tell people, especially the people that you love most in the world, because you want them to share your joy. And he didn't do that. He was not feeling anything, and yet he allowed her to come. That's what I just can't get over.
Yeah.
Anyway, shall we move on?
Yes, please.
Okay, let's have a brief discussion of Brian and Ingrid, because
I don't want to get into this. I mean, not too deeply.
Brian says, it seems like Ingrid doesn't want to be anybody's mother or babysitter. You think?
Especially in a relationship
with a grown adult man? We want to be your mother or babysitter? No, we do not. No. Said no woman ever. I want to be your mother and babysitter. Gross.
No thanks.
So the big reveal in this episode is that Brian lets slip to his friend that they're having drinks with that he has been married 4 times before. He is currently still married to wife number 4. They're in the process of getting divorced. And he did not share this information with Ingrid until now.
And was unfianced 7 additional times.
Not 7 additional times, 3 additional times.
7 altogether?
Yeah, so he's asked somebody to marry him 7 times. 4
and
times he got a yes, 3
times.
times he got a no. Yeah.
Great.
Just as a side note, I was asking my husband about this just earlier on today, because I said, what is it with Brazilian women? Is there a different culture? Is there a different attitude? Because as a North American woman, I would find this extremely off-putting to know that somebody had been married 4 times and had been engaged 3 separate times before that or during that, whatever. And he said, because he's Portuguese, he kind of knows about this stuff. Brazilian women are a lot more relaxed about their sexual relationships, and they wouldn't really see that as an impediment.
Interesting.
Yeah, so we had a big discussion about that. I learned a lot of interesting things, but just as a nutshell encapsulation of the conversation, it was really interesting to learn that the Brazilian women mentality is a little bit different from ours. They're a lot more accepting, a lot more open. So I thought maybe this is why Brian is specifically targeting Brazilian women, as we know he is. Because there's a lot more openness, and he wouldn't encounter as much resistance as he would if he was trying to date an American woman to say, oh, actually, I've been married 4 times and 3 times. Yeah. I mean, exactly. You and I have the same reaction. We're like, red flag. No. But somebody from another culture might say, it doesn't matter to me.
Well, it matters to me. And more importantly, it matters to Ingrid. And I think what matters the most is the amount of lies that he's told, the overt lies, the lies by omission, awful. And during this conversation, she brought up his age again, saying how she thought he was 45. And he's like, I have a 31-year-old kid. It's not my problem that you can't do math. It's your fault.
Yeah.
And then he said it's her fault because she never asked him how many times he was married. Also,
seriously?
Her fault. Yeah.
Seriously?
Yes. So think in sum, if you have been engaged 7 times and within those 7 times you've had 4 failed marriages, what's the common denominator?
You.
Yeah. Well, he's just going to say that they were all women, but yet he still continues to go after them. Oh. He's gross. I felt bad for his friend Brian for sitting there and having to deal with this.
Yeah. As did I. But yes, the attitude towards Ingrid when she has a reaction to hearing that he's been married 3 additional times than she knew about was, or maybe it was just 2, because I think she said she knew he'd been married twice. Yeah, I found that really interesting that it was like he was gaslighting her. Like, she didn't know that. That's your problem. No. You are not disclosing the information. And then the little sneaky, well, she didn't ask. No, that's on you. You volunteer that information. You tell her who you are, what your past is like, so that she can make an informed decision on whether or not she wants to be with you in the future.
And where would she get the idea that you had 2 marriages? Did she come up with that on her own? Or did you specifically tell her? Now, does this mean that you've had 2 Brazilian marriages and the other ones don't count? Or what is this?
That's the other thing. He said, I've been married 3 times before, 4 times if you count the one in Recife. And I was like, why wouldn't you? It's a marriage. It's a legal document. You have to get a divorce in order to extricate yourself from this situation. Is that not real? Why would you not count it? Like, this guy is such a weasel.
It's because he's just playing with his words.
Don't like.
Gross.
Let's go to Loren and Faith. Amy, would you like to eat or taste some chicken intestine?
It wouldn't be my first thing, but I would.
It tastes just like spaghetti.
See, I don't believe that in the slightest. I don't believe anything that comes from his mouth or goes into it. I was very intrigued by the whole outdoor chicken barbecue thing. I'm hungry. Yeah, I would really like to try some of that. Even, I don't care. I would still try it. I think he's been a real champ with eating all of the things. I think the only thing that they ate in this segment or this episode that gave me pause was the mango dipped in shrimp paste. I mean, I'd still try it, but I can't see how that would be a thing. Maybe like a little bit of dusting or like being tossed in it, but by dipping into it, like maybe he just dipped too. But anyway, sorry, I'm getting way too involved in the food thing. Anyway, I'm very proud of Faith for communicating effectively with him by telling him her clear boundaries. But typical Loren, I had my drink go down the wrong pipe, so my voice is still trying to recover. Typical Loren is, pushing to be the boyfriend thing again. Pushing. Okay, she agrees. Awful. Whatever.
Well, I think he was playing off the good review that he got from Faith's sisters. Yeah. He was using that as a springboard to get her to acquiesce and to admit that he is her boyfriend again.
And it worked, but then he started talking about his plans.
Wow, these plans are out there. They're probably some of the best plans I think I've ever heard on 90 Day Fiancé.
They are outlandish.
Outrageous.
I think it's one thing to suggest to go to Thailand where, same-sex couples can get married. Great. Lovely. But then the alternative?
No, but before the alternative, the reason why he's not going to do that first option, which is the best option, obviously, is because it costs money. And he has no money. How is he going to afford to send them both to Thailand for whatever period of time it takes for a marriage to be registered, performed, accepted, signed, sealed, delivered, and then to send them back to the Philippines? Too
Okay, that's
expensive.
fair.
Yeah.
But then the cheaper option, the most available option, the most illogical, immoral, unethical, and gross option.
Incestuous?
Yeah. Yeah. Let me marry your mom. And I loved everyone's reaction because everyone burst out into laughter. Is he serious right now?
It's a joke. It's a joke.
And then he's just sitting there like, am I in? Am I in? Is it mine?
Was that a yes?
Are we doing this? Gross.
It was so disgusting.
You want to talk about one of the biggest mistakes that you could ever make when you're actively trying to commit immigration fraud is to do so while being filmed.
I never thought of that.
And not just like on someone's cell phone, like you actively, like you have an active film crew around you with boom mics and cameras. You know, marry your mom for the immigration status and go from there.
It totally. Like, what's he gonna say? Oh, actually, I do love her mom more than Faith, and that's why I suggested it. Dumbass. Okay, Faith not completely freaking out when he first suggests this to her on her own. She deserves the world for that. Academy Award, everything. Because for somebody to have that suggested to them as not a joke, but as a serious option, and to not immediately throttle that person, run away, scream, do whatever is necessary to express a huge amount of incredulity over this outrageous idea. I thought, well done, Faith. Good for you.
I think it would have been appropriate, or also would have been appropriate amongst all the other reactions that you've suggested, is to laugh in his face.
Mm-hmm.
And she did none of that.
She's amazing.
I love her.
Yeah. All right. So all of this to me just indicates one thing. Loren is more interested in staying in the Philippines than he is in actually having a relationship with Faith. Faith is just a means to an end. He wants to stay. He doesn't want to go back to the US. So he's going to figure out whichever way he can, no matter how crazy it seems, to stay. And this idea of marrying her mother, I mean, bless the family for laughing and for taking it as a joke rather than actually thinking it was a serious suggestion. Because I think it could have gone all kinds of crazy bad ways had they
such an outlandish suggestion. Just so absurd.
Yep. And obscene. I was like, where are we? Is this a Greek myth? Because the level of incestuousness inherent in marrying your beloved's mother is just like, wow.
And I don't know the laws over there, but it's entirely possible that you have to consummate the marriage in order for it to be a thing. And I'm sure Loren would say the same thing. Okay, I have one last comment. I very much appreciate their dedication to karaoke.
That was cute.
About that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I loved learning that karaoke is permitted until 10 p.m., after which point you must turn it off. You may get arrested if not, because other people want to sleep.
I love that. I love that very much. I have many Filipino friends, though, and it's so funny to hear about all of their family gatherings, because my old roommate, Phil, they used to have, like, back in the day, this was a big thing. It was a karaoke mic. And then you could like type in the name and it shows up on the TV. So you could just like do it right from the microphone. It was amazing. Like, long gone are the days when you need like a whole like DJ stand and whatever. Oh, I love it so much.
Let's go to South Africa. Veah and Sunny. We have the fallout from Sunny meeting Rory. Sunny is behaving like a child. He runs away into the night when he doesn't get what he wants from Veah. In other words, he's throwing a temper tantrum. Then he pressures her to send Rory home. I mean, she's obviously not feeling safe yet. Again, we have another situation where all the man has to do is just back off, let the woman go at her own speed, at her own pace, and things will or should go your way. And if they don't, then it wasn't meant to be. That's fine. But instead, Sunny is determined to force Veah into making this decision of sending Rory home. And so basically he gives her an ultimatum. It's him or it's me. Very mature. Not.
I love that he told her that it was her fault. That's why they were fighting. I absolutely love that because it is her fault. And then she made a big decision on her own. Good for her. And that was my summary.
Did she make a decision on her own? Because I thought that it was like establishing a pattern for the future of their relationship, where when he doesn't get what he wants from her, he pressures her until she finally caves. Then she relents, she gives in, he gets what he wants, which is constant validation and reassurance. Not healthy, not good, does not bode well for the future. And that is all I have to say.
Agreed.
We did not have Tiger Lily and Adnan this week, and we did not, of course, have Renee and Chitty. Next week preview doesn't look very good. Vanja might be meeting another man, but not in a good way. Tiger Lily's going to put on that swimsuit for Adnan. We knew it was coming.
And Adnan puts on that t-shirt.
Joe and Magda are still arguing over his past. Niles has a serious change of heart. And Faith and Loren take a step forward in their relationship, but then it seems like maybe they're taking 2 steps back. So I'm not really sure what's going on.
I don't know, but I enjoyed this episode so much that I'm actually looking forward to next week. So I would like to keep that that positive thought process.
It was fantastic momentum this week.
You want to try that again?
Momentum. Okay, now I'm just being like Joe. Can't say Magna. All right, let's go to our bonus content
this week because it was me last week. Okay, let's do this. Let's do this.
Okay, The Other Way, season 6, episode 21, which is, of course, the tell-all part 1. I think we should first mention that Dempsey and Statler are not included in the tell-all. They have broken up at this point, so no more Dempsey and Statler.
They were not missed, but if they weren't on there because they weren't together, it begs to question why Corona and Inky, wrong pipe. Why they were on there. What a waste.
What a waste to have Corona and Inky on the show?
Yeah.
Because they've broken up. For no other reason.
Well, no, I mean, if you want to look at it from Dempsey and Statler aren't on it because they are no longer together. So then why are they these two on it?
I see. Okay.
But I mean, we've seen it before. We've had so many couples come on who have broken up, and that's totally fine. But I just think that Corona was such a waste of space, a waste of air, wasted my eardrums with her stupid commentary.
Do you want to talk about them first?
No. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Then we won't. Well, let's talk about Shekinah and Sarper. Not to get into the details of it because we don't like to talk about them. They are so superficial and annoying. But I just wanted to give kudos to Sarper because whenever he was talking about somebody else's relationship, I found that he actually made sense and was kind of interesting and mature and very progressive.
I also found him entertaining.
Yes.
He made some funny comments. I enjoyed that.
He was one of the more reasonable people.
Which really caught me off guard.
Yes.
And I'm sure it caught a lot of people off guard because I really didn't expect it. I appreciated that.
It was a nice surprise. And I love the fact, going back to Corona and Inky for just a moment, that Sarper defended Inky. Because nobody else was. And he called Corona on her totally bitch move of trying to get everybody on her side during the break, which was so transparent. I really enjoyed that he was trying to give the show a more balanced perspective. And that's not to say that whenever he spoke about his own relationship with Shekinah that he actually made sense, because I found that whenever he was talking about himself or Shekinah that it was completely Lulu. But when he spoke about the other couples, when he was giving his opinion and his advice, I was like, this man actually makes sense. How is this happening? This is delightful.
It was one of those where I am pleasantly surprised.
Absolutely.
Because you know how I feel about them, and I was not looking forward to hearing anything from either one of them, but I was really surprised at how much Sarper pulled through. Yeah, Shekinah, on the other hand, I think she dug herself a deeper hole, and without going into the relationship because we don't care, I just wanted to make a comment that I think that it's very concerning that everyone laughed when Sarper was talking about how controlling she kind of is. How is that funny?
It's not. It's really not.
Why is it appropriate to, want to track your partner and know what they're doing at every moment of it screams insecurities to me.
Absolutely.
Why is that funny?
It is not funny, and it was shocking how controlling she is of him. I mean, they're both controlling of the other, but it is really, really shocking how much she controls him and how little he's allowed to do or express when she's around because of her insecurities. And that is all that I want to say about it, because I don't find this couple particularly beneficial to spend any time wasting breath over. Let's talk about Josh and Lily. They are asked what score out of 10 they would give their relationship. Josh says 6, Lily says 3, which is devastating.
But my question is, I guess it's a question about the question, because the question is, how would you rate your marriage after the wedding? Are we talking about the first wedding?
Right.
Or are we talking about the second wedding?
Yeah. I felt like that doesn't really matter all that much, because
I know, I'm just being pedantic.
Okay, fine, pedant away. But the 3 out of 10 was really, really concerning.
Yeah.
Because Josh was so emotional during this episode. He in fact broke down in tears at one point. He had difficulty speaking. So there was a lot of feeling in what he was giving out to the audience. And Lily, I just didn't feel anything coming from her at all. And I don't know that it's because she doesn't feel anything, because perhaps she does. After all, she is the one who's asking Josh for the intimacy. She is the one who's asking constantly for them to be together, and he's saying no. So surely she does feel something for her to want that from him. But I just felt like she was so cold and cut off and unflinching. Maybe that's just as a result of everything that's happened. So she's gotten to this point now where she is basically detached.
Well, I think it's because he keeps pulling out these crocodile tears and nothing changes.
So you didn't believe it? You didn't believe the tears? Okay.
So she's like, okay, great. And that's probably why she didn't have a reaction, because it just does it all the time.
Well, I found that interesting, because everybody on the panel said that they didn't believe that Lily loves Josh. They believe that Josh loves Lily. So they're buying the crocodile tears. But you're not.
I'm not.
Okay.
And I didn't buy them. I haven't bought them at all.
So he's using the Gino excuse, which is that because he gets berated and belittled all day long, he doesn't have any desire at the end of the day to fulfill what she wants, which is to be intimate. But this is not Jasmine. There is no scream crying. There is no full-on verbal assault going on. Lily is quite demure. So she's a little bit more quiet than Jasmine is. I was going to say mindful. I'm trying not to say it. So what is really going on in the relationship where she's trying to initiate, he's refusing, he's saying it's because he's getting belittled, he doesn't feel like a man. Is it low testosterone? Is it that he's asexual? They've only slept together at the most 5 times during their entire relationship? That's something else. That's a different matter altogether.
Perhaps he plays for a different team.
Well, that's why I was suggesting maybe he's asexual. I wouldn't go so far as to say that he's gay.
I'm not saying that.
But you said a different team. Doesn't that mean closeted?
It could be anything.
Okay.
Just anything but wanting to sleep with his wife. But you know who probably does have the answers?
Jordan?
Yes.
Jared.
His name is Jared.
Jared. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
And where was he? Why did we have this random woman that Sarper slept with, who happens to be a therapist? Why did we have this person on, and why didn't we have Jared? Is he coming in the next episode?
Jared's coming next week.
Okay. Thank you for confirming.
Yeah. No worries. Yeah, I really feel like there's something deeper that's going on with Josh, something that he hasn't expressed or is unwilling to express on television, because the guy's almost 50. He's only had 4 sexual relationships in his entire history, and he's only slept with his wife of 2 or 3 years, 3, 4 years. I'm
I
not even
don't know.
sure now. 5 times at the very most, something is up. Whether it's
Look,
medical or emotional, I don't know.
I mean, it could even be confidence. Like, he doesn't exude confidence.
Sure.
And I think because Lily keeps, I don't know, stomping on his self-esteem, throwing money in his face, maybe that just keeps contributing to his low self-esteem.
Yeah.
And then he has no desire to seek out that intimacy because he just feels so broken. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think we're going to figure it out. So let's just move on. Let's talk about Corona and Inky. She says she was in love. She says she got her heart broken. I don't believe her. Do you?
No.
No, I don't. I don't think anything like that actually happened. It's interesting. Inky saying that he came to the US twice and that he found that Corona was a different person when he arrived. I can totally believe that. I can totally see that. When you're on your own turf, people tend to act a little differently. And I can picture Corona being kind of annoyingly confident or aggressive when she's on her.
Even more so than when she was. That's awful.
Yes. Can you believe it?
I can. I saw her on the tell-all.
She was so juvenile. Her behavior when she came out and she was giving Inky the finger, even though he can't really see her, excessively rude,
Eye rolls to the gods.
unnecessarily juvenile. Is anybody going to believe you when you're acting in such an absurd and overreactive way?
And the name calling to sink that low is just so despicable. And then Sean pipes up his, I'm going to say performance, because
Yes.
I think it was in part 1 was so deplorable. And the fact that he was feeding into Corona and verbally attacking Inky and physically threatening him.
Before Inky even got a chance to get out any words at
To
all.
say anything.
I know,
To
and
say
the threat was just disgusting.
Yeah. Oh, you know, if you were here right now. Okay, great. He's not. What are you going to do? And why do you have this such a, I want to use the word visceral. I'm not sure if that's right. But why would you have that kind of reaction towards this guy that you've never met in defense of this woman? I don't even know if you're friends. Doesn't even matter. But we all know that this relationship is fake. I've been saying this from the very beginning. It's been confirmed online when they leaked the interview with Inky. It's all fake.
Yeah.
And Sean has the audacity to go at Inky that way.
Well, I think it was pretty clear that Sean and Corona are friends because he was using the same language that Corona was using.
What?
When she called Inky a bitch, Sean called Inky a bitch. They were mirroring each other so closely. It was like there's no way that they hadn't talked about this beforehand, that they haven't already discussed what her feelings are towards Inky and how Sean is going to react towards Inky when Inky is there. So I found that whole situation to be just a total like bullies ganging up on the guy who has no clue what's going on, and he's just there because he's been asked to show up and he's following through with his commitments to 90 Day Fiancé. I found it very unfair. I found it very one-sided. I found it very transparent, and it totally turned me off of who Sean is based on his attacks to Inky, based on his language, and especially based on the threat. I just went, nope, sorry, no time for you. Goodbye.
Yeah, no.
Closed book.
I agree.
Yeah. What did you think of when Inky did finally get his chance to present his side of the story, that he just said, okay, with that, and he took off his headphones and he walked away and he slept?
I thought that was very respectful. He didn't need to take any more of that verbal beating. And, you know, especially with all of Corona's antics, with the addition of Sean, there was really no purpose in him staying there. You know, he did his thing. He said what he needed to say. You know, Sarper called him. He's like, hey, you know, you want to come and say your thing? And he says, I did. And I think he's right. I think if he had stayed any longer, it just would have been, you know, throw darts at Inky.
Absolutely. I agree. I applauded him for walking off after he'd said his piece, I thought, there is no point in you staying because your voice will not be heard. You're going to have Corona and Sean and probably, what's his name, James, because he was piping up as well, which seemed really bizarre, in attacking Inky for no reason without letting him present who he is, what he was all about, what his perception of the story was. So yes, by all means, walk off into the night and disappear, because at this point, anything you say is going to be disregarded, stomped on, turned against you, whatever. So
yes,
good for you. And I know that in the preview, we see that Sarper's going to try to get him to come back. So maybe we will hear more. But personally, I don't need to hear more. I like the fact that he's walked away. And I think it would be good to end the story like this. To just say, like, he's presented his perspective. He's not said anything derogatory or ill-wishing towards Corona. He's just stated his facts, and that's all. Good night, goodbye.
No, I completely agree. If he did come back, that would just he would just be walking back onto the firing range.
Yeah.
He's been there. He knows what bullets they're shooting. He's not interested.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Peace out.
Absolutely. All right. Our final couple that we talked to this week were James and Matlida. We learned that Tata's been in the U.S. for 4 months. James promised to sponsor Angel to come over to the U.S. for a visit.
What a mistake!
As a condition of getting his wife to come back to live with him in the U.S. Holy crap. That this is how you have to induce your wife to come back to live with you, to bring this parasite into your own home?
Why not? And also, what home? Where is he living? Is he living with his parents? Did he get his job back? We know nothing yet.
Yeah, all of that stuff is yet to be determined. I'm just assuming, he probably has his job back. He's probably living in the same place that they had rented or whatever before with the dog. I'm sure that everything is as it was before, because like I said before, I think that this whole setup was exactly that he was just moving to Indonesia temporarily, and that he fully intended to go back to the US. Anyway, the whole thing about Angel is just wild, and she actually comes on the show, and would you believe she's even worse than we had possibly imagined?
Do I need to get to know him?
Yes, you do. He's your sister's husband.
Brother-in-law.
Brother-in-law, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you want to know about James?
He's paying to bring you to the U.S. He's paying for you to live and eat and be happy under a roof while you were there for up to 6 months. Angel is so incredibly rude. I could not believe it. And yet Tata says nothing. Tata is so under the control of Angel that she can't even stand up for her husband and say, actually, Angel, the way that you're treating my husband right now is disrespectful, and I'd prefer it if you addressed him with kindness.
I don't think she cares. I think she's so much more invested in getting her sister over there than anything to do with her marriage.
Wow.
Yeah. Because she even said back when they were I think it was the last episode, you have to bring Angel or I'm not going back with you.
Mm-hmm.
You have to bring Angel. And we talked about this in the last episode. I don't want to rehash the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's just such an unhealthy dynamic, and I think it's a lose-lose for Josh.
James.
You bring her over, you're going to be miserable. You don't bring her over, either Tata comes over and she's absolutely miserable, or she just doesn't come back to you.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. He has no choice but to bring her. However, has Tata, the person caught in the middle, as she said it, she has a choice of whether or not to watch her marriage unravel and corrode in front of her eyes because of her sister, or she could say to her sister, I love you. I'm so glad you're here. This means the world to me. However, You will be kind to my husband because he is my husband. He is your brother-in-law and I have chosen him and he will be in our lives forever. But she can't even do that.
Nope.
So what is the outcome? Like, Angel's going to come. Let's say she stays for the full 6 months and every day, as James described it on the show, is going to be a battle to fight for the survival of his marriage. What's the outcome? Does he end up divorced? Does the sister get exiled for another 2-3 years like she was before?
Did they ever say why she was exiled?
Because of the bad things she was saying about James and how she had been smearing him on social media, saying that he was treating women badly.
Okay, but it hasn't stopped.
No, it has not stopped. And Tata is doing nothing to stop it.
No,
which is
Tata
my
doesn't
issue.
have the... She doesn't have the wherewithal to be able to do that.
I
I
know.
think Tata's just going to cry about it.
Yes, she will. Like, her sister seems to have so much power over her. And yet Tata seems to love her husband, does she not? I mean, she says she's going to stay with him even if he doesn't want to have kids, which is her only purpose. So why can she not recognize that this is a bad person to have in your marriage in this particular way? There are other ways to have your sister involved in your marriage, and those would be pleasant and happy. But instead, she chooses to let Angel walk over James and be horrible towards him, which causes all kinds of problems for her marriage. Why would you do that?
Let me ask you a question.
Ask away.
In the history of seeing James and Tata on 90 Day Fiancé, have either one of them ever made a good decision?
No.
So,
No.
case in point.
You are absolutely right.
Yes, I am.
They are, even if they know what the right choice is, you're right, they would not choose it.
No, it's just bad choice after bad choice. It's kind of like, do you want to blow up your marriage or do you want to live in some sort of harmony? Obviously, they're going to blow this shit up because why wouldn't they?
It's so much fun. Okay, one final comment about James and Tata, and then I think I'm done. The comment, you know which one I'm talking about, right?
Is it mine?
The one that he made about the empty balls and the full hands was revolting.
I have 2 comments then.
The worst thing I have ever heard come out of a man's mouth on the entire history of what I know of 90 Day Fiancé. Revolting, disgusting, deplorable. Shut up. Go home.
I think he was...
Never utter those words again, please.
I think he was capitulating to Sarper. Is that the right word?
Yeah. He was totally trying to puff himself up to be as good as Sarper, or if not, at least in Sarper's eyes, good enough to be recognized. Yeah, I get you.
Okay, so my final comment is actually, I can't believe I'm saying this, is a quote from Sarper.
Do it.
She's cute, but she cries too much.
It was nice. It was.
And then no, she didn't actually have any of her crocodile tears from then on after. She was teary-eyed and was on the verge, but she didn't have any of her outbursts.
She brought out the Kleenex many, many times.
Oh, she did, but she didn't pull the whole, like, her normal crying.
Oh, where she can't really speak and her voice is... Yeah. She did hold it together relatively well. Yes.
Yeah, because Sarper called her out on her BS. Okay, now I'm done.
All right. We did speak a little tiny bit to Sean and Joanne, and the only things that I wanted to mention here is that she has brought a bunch of crystals with her, and she has them in her goddess pockets, and I'm like, what, pray tell, is a goddess pocket, and do I want to know?
I don't know if it's her goddess pockets or if it's nature's pocket.
She did say pockets, plural.
Yeah, so I'm also confused, and I have an idea.
I'm not sure that I want to know.
Just leave it.
And then with relation to Sean, he says, well, obviously he's in the US, so have his visa troubles been erased, resolved somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And he mentions that he is not in the U.S. permanently
Yeah.
yet.
He's going to leave his daughter.
I think he is. I think he's going to give up his daughter because, wow, lots of stuff on the tell-all still to come next week. Tell-all part 2, which is the final installment coming up. So we will have more to share then. Any
Yes, we
final
shall.
comments, or shall we wrap it up?
Wrap it up.
Okay,
Wrap it up.
I'm going to wrap it. Let's go. Before we go, if you're enjoying the 90 Day Fiancé Honestly podcast, please subscribe to or follow our show. And if you have an additional moment, please rate us and help other 90 Day fans to find our show. Thank you so much for listening.
Thanks, everyone.
See you next week.